We have our guests standing by, a member of the Bring Back Our Girls movement, Buki Shonibare. We also have the founder of Gideon and Fumi Paramalam Peace Foundation, Gideon Paramalam. It's good to have you join us, gentleman and lady. Thank you so much for joining us on TVC News at 10. But first off, let me start with the lady. Talk to us about how the Bring Back Our Girls movement has helped in bringing back 187, if I'm correct, girls back from the captivity of Boko Haram.
When the abduction occurred on April 14, 2014, Nigerians were not even aware that anything like that had happened until news started filtering out. And when it was eventually known by Nigerians, there was denial that that abduction took place. When it was acknowledged eventually on May 5 of 2014, the numbers was actually even reduced. But in between that period, the Bring Back Our Girls movement started. We had the first march on April 30th, and we came together simply to say that an unprecedented large-scale abduction like the Chibok girls abduction must not go in a way that we are not campaigning and calling for their rescue. And so what we did was not just to march on April 30th of 2014. We decided to come back, and we kept having daily sit-outs to call on government to make sure that the girls have got back. So far, many of the girls have been brought back, even though we still have many still in abduction.
Of course, many still unaccounted for. You know, we're only talking about the Chibok girls' abduction, and there are still other cases of abduction in various schools in northern part of Nigeria. Let's bring in Mr. Gideon Paramalam. You are in the north. You've seen this happen over and over again. Talk to us about how government has fared, successive governments now, has fared in ensuring that schools are safe for children.
Yeah, thank you very much. I wish I could be positive about the role of government in terms of securing our schools, but that would be a lie to my conscience. Chibok occurred, as Boki said, on the 14th of April 2014, shortly after Easter. After that, several mass abductions targeting girls has taken place. You also have the Dapchi kidnappings by ISWAP. By the way, the Chibok girls were picked by the Shekaus group. So nothing has happened. And then you have several of such abductions in large numbers taking place in Katsina State, in Niger State, in Kaduna State, multiple times. Nothing has happened by way of providing security to the schools. So in that regard, and this is not just whipping government for the sake of whipping government, but the government hasn't done enough. I think by now, the government needs to think seriously of how they can provide security to our schools. How that needs to be done, that is the work of government. And to also challenge the school authorities themselves, not to wait entirely on, but they also need to take steps to secure their schools.
Talking about how schools should also come up with strategies of providing a safe space for children. Ms. Shonibare, talk to us about, what you would expect from people around. I know that the campaign started back in 2014. What would you expect from people, particularly Nigerians, as to how to, should I use the word, pressure the government to take more decisive steps to ensuring there's a safe space for children?
I think Nigerians are pressuring the government, and not just even based on commemoration of the abduction of the Chibok girls. Like Mr. Gideon mentioned earlier, the fact that there's been many abductions. Invictus Africa actually did a tracking of the abductions that had happened between April 14, 2014 and April 13, 2024. And we saw that there has been at least 20 school abductions of primary and secondary school children. In those 20 incidents, 1,754 school children have been abducted, even though many of them were released. It's only with the Chibok girls that we saw that we've had this extensive period. And when you expand that to tertiary institutions, we're looking at like 38 abductions, and we're looking at almost 2,000 school children. In order for this not to happen, one would expect that the Nigerian government would have learned from the Chibok abduction. But what did we see 4 years down the line that happened? We didn't even learn from the Buninyadi massacre that happened on February 25, 2014, where 29 boys were killed. Now, to put this in proper perspective and in closing my thought on this, one would expect that the Nigerian government will operationalize the Safe School Initiative, which basically set a minimum standard of security and safety of schools. And in not just even in hotspots, 88,000 schools were mapped as hotspots of schools that could go through the kind of abduction, not just for Chibok or any mass abduction, but any abduction whatsoever. That initiative says that there should be things like maybe perimeter fencing, muster point, training of teachers or school personnel, so that in case there's any threat of abduction, they know how to respond, even training of the children themselves. And so those are the kind of things that we expect from government, and those are the kind of things that Nigerians have actually been asking for.
Mr. Marlam, just your final thoughts. What would you say the government can do for parents still waiting for the other 87? We had just heard in that report that at least 40 of those parents, have died from shock and, just waiting for their children to be brought back. But what would you say should be the kind of support we should be giving to these parents?
Yes, actually 48 of those parents have died. And also some of us have been in touch with the Parents Association. So the figures we got from the parents as to how many of those Chibok girls are yet to be accounted for, it's about, I think, 82 from a tweet I made last night to commemorate 10 years of the Chibok girls. Now, when you listen to the person who spoke, or those voices from the Borno state government, I listened very keenly. Unfortunately, no reference did they ever make to the parents. These parents do not matter. These girls are out, their circumstances have changed, and so they are looking after those girls, giving them a second chance to do their education. Nothing about the parents. I think it's not correct. Some of the parents who have died because of trauma, because of high blood pressure, all of this could be reduced if the government established a line of communication that's full of integrity. I don't think most of that is taking place. So I would encourage that the government going forward from this time, that's why in my tweet, I directed attention to Mr. President. And I know that the president has a tendency to listen based on certain realities that I know in Nigeria. I would like, going forward from the 10th anniversary, at least let this be something to remember, that the president establishes a line of communication to the parents to provide daily briefings. I'm sorry, not daily briefings, to provide briefings as and when development occurs concerning these girls, but also to say that the government actually needs to secure the release or freedom of the other 82 girls based on the records that I have. So government needs to be more proactive than the way it is. It's unfortunate that not much happened in the 8 years of Buhari's government. I need to be very blunt about this. I know that they secured some people. Yes, they secured some of the girls, but not much happened. But I think Tinubu needs to do more as president to secure the release of the other 82 girls.
I'm afraid we might have to leave it at that. The founder, Gideon and Fumi Paramalam Peace Foundation, thank you so much for speaking with us. I also spoke with the member of the Bring Back Our Girls movement, Ms. Buki Shonibara. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on TVC News at 10.
Thank you.